God, Guns, and Borders. Hey guys, it's John here in Akron, Ohio, freezing my butt off. Actually, I'm not. I've got a great little heater in this studio space that keeps me nice and warm. And if I get quiet, you may be able to hear that running. I'm not sure if you can or can't. But if you can, that's my beautiful little heater over there keeping this room warm. I wanted to hop on and talk about this because the other day I put up a video about predictions for 2024, and I mentioned something about borders inside there. And I find it interesting that several people were like, you are so wrong about borders. You are so wrong about borders. I'm not wrong about borders. I'm expressing my beliefs about borders. I just don't agree with you. We don't agree with what's right. It's not that I'm wrong. It's that you don't think I'm wrong. You don't think I'm right. But let's talk about that for a second. God, guns, and borders. Let's start with God and guns, because that's a biggie. You go on YouTube right now, there are so many people that talk about God and guns. There's even a YouTube channel, I think, called God and Guns. So where do God and guns meet? I would say never the twain shall meet, right? God is love. So what is the use of a gun? A gun is to be in fear, to need something to protect yourself in case of an attack, right? So you're in fear, you're not in love. You are, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Well, if you fear no evil, why do you have a home protection gun? Because you are succumbing to fear. That's your fear-based belief, right? The idea of God and guns being in the same sentence makes no sense to me. Makes no sense to me, because the majority of guns that are sold are right now, I think the biggest number of guns that sold are handguns, followed by shotguns, followed by rifles, and then right on down the line to assault rifles, right? So you get down, but the handguns are the number one sellers. You know, why do you don't hunt with a handgun? You're either afraid and you need a gun, or you're doing something that's fearful to others. So you are literally not being of God at all. So God and guns together makes no sense whatsoever. Now, the argument that I got the other day about the borders was interesting, because I said, I think we should think of ourselves as humanity. And I instantly had a few people who snapped back to me and tell me how wrong I am. Think about that. I think we should think of the world as humanity. And I'm so wrong about borders. Well, if we're humanity, there are no borders. The border is our atmosphere. And when I look at people arguing, they're arguing fear-based arguments. Somebody says, you are so wrong. You know, illegal aliens come into this country and they are causing all the problems. They're not. That is a political talking point. They're not. The majority, and I mean the majority of illegal aliens that come in this country are more law-abiding than you and I probably are, because they are hiding. They are trying not to get caught. And so they're upholding more of the laws than you and I are, and they're in hiding. They can't draw attention to themselves. The thing is your arguments on the border always come down to drugs and gangs and crime. 90%, or probably more than that even, of the people coming through our borders are just trying to survive. They're trying to get out of dangerous places and dangerous countries, and they're just trying to survive, right? But why are those places that they're leaving so dangerous? Because we're not acting as humanity. We're acting as my country's better than your country, and you can't come in here and make my country worse. You know, certain politicians say they're sending us our rapists, they're sending us their drug dealers, they're sending us our gangs. That couldn't be further from the truth. They're not sending us anybody. And in reality, the criminals are doing better down there than they do here, because they have more power down there, because they're able to run amok. One of the things about the borders that people don't understand is that our economy runs on illegal aliens. If we were to round up every illegal alien in this country and send them back to their country, the prices of all construction trades would go 3 times the price, would triple. Why is that? Because the pricing of your projects is based upon the cheap labor they get through illegal aliens. And that's in every state in the country. I know of people all over this country, including Maryland and Delaware and Tennessee and definitely South Florida, that the actual businesses, the pricing of jobs is based on the cheap labor they get from illegal aliens. Nobody else in this country will work for as cheap as they do, and so when they budget a job, when they bid a job, they're bidding it with the prices of illegal aliens. So landscaping, painting, construction, all of these trades prices would triple. You wouldn't be able to afford a house. Now those illegal aliens are just working. Now how do I know this? John, how do you know this? Because I was working in Washington, D.C. area for a reputable landscaping company that ran off of illegal aliens. I know somebody who used to have a business in Delaware. His entire business ran off of illegal aliens because he couldn't afford to hire Americans who would do the jobs at those rates. And it's the only way he could stay competitive. The reality of it is that the people who are coming here are just trying to survive. And they're hiding in plain sight, doing the jobs that we won't do. This boogeyman at the border with the drugs and all that. The majority of the drugs that come into this country come through the actual highway through the border line, and a large percentage of the people who are bringing it across are not Mexicans; they're Americans. It's easier for an American to get across into America than it is for a Mexican to get across America. So the Americans go down to South America, get the stuff, bring it up, drive it up in their RV or the tire of their car, and they try to make themselves as not innocuous as possible so they can get the drugs through the country. People try to make it an us or them situation at the border. It's not. It's not. When we come back to the place of humanity and loving one another, you start to realize, I find that the majority of the people who have this argument about the border have never traveled the world. The majority of them haven't lived out of their 50 square mile radius of their home. You know, when you travel the world and you go, I've been to 30 countries. I found beautiful, loving, caring people everywhere. I asked them what's most important to them. You know what their answer was? My family. The majority of the people in the world are just caring for their families and the things that represent love to them. But when you start to say our border's a mess because of this, and this, and they're bringing drugs, and you're focusing on a tiny percentage of who's actually coming across. Look at the TV. You know, the children that were locked in cages, the children that were wading through the river, they weren't carrying drugs. They were being carried by their parents. And in many cases, their parents would bring the child to the border knowing that they couldn't get across. And they knew if they sent the child, which is the most horrible thing they could do as a parent, is to let their child go. But it was the only way their child could have a safer life or a happier life or a healthier life, is to do the most loving thing and give their child up to the border, because they know where they are, the child's going to live up with a terrible life. This concept of borders and needing guns and all these things are just fear-based dogmatic beliefs that are a non-reality, because the non-reality of our borders being overrun and all that stuff, if you didn't have a border, they'd be coming across anyway, right? If they didn't have a border, we'd be going down there more often. You know, that's how the world works. We've all migrated. And when I look at, I need a gun. Why do you need a gun? Because I'm afraid that someone may break into my house. I need an assault rifle. Really? Let's think about the assault rifles for a second. How many times this past year have you read the article where someone defended their home with their assault rifle? How many times this year have you seen the assault rifle being used in a mass shooting? You haven't seen any, home defenses with an assault rifle. Except for the people who stood in the front yard afraid of the black people walking by in their neighborhood, he was standing there with an assault rifle because he was afraid of those people. Those people. Those people are humans. Those people have lives. Those people deserve love and compassion. But I'm going to stand in my front yard with an assault rifle because I'm afraid of them. If you're living in fear, if you are afraid of the what's coming across the borders and leaning into the mistruth that the majority of the people who come across the border are drug dealers and criminals, I guarantee you the drug dealers and criminals have found better ways to come across the border than to wade through the Rio Grande. They're already coming in the country. They've got much better ways of getting here. The people coming across the border through the Rio Grande, the majority of them are just people trying to create a living, trying to create life. And when I look at this fear-based stuff that is being perpetuated to keep us separate and to keep us divided, as opposed to keeping us or bringing us together as a beautiful human family, it upsets me because of the fact that God is love. That border does not make them unlovable. That border that's been created out of fear to keep us separate from them does not make them unlovable. And if you believe they're unlovable, that means you have chosen not to love. You have chosen not to care. You have chosen to lean into the fear that is being told to you. And instead, you are perpetuating the fear. I have been all over the world. I have been with Muslims and Jews and Spanish and Mexican, and I've been with Russians. I've been with Irish. I've been with, I've been all through the Middle East, Egyptians, United Arab Emirates. I've been to all cultures. I have found beautiful, loving people in every one of them. I also have run into Americans who have been complete buttheads because of their belief that everybody else is out to get them. My famous Egypt story, I call it my famous Egypt story because I tell it all the time. I went through Egypt for a month. I was treated like family everywhere I went. Ran into another American. Everyone wanted to fight him wherever he went. 5 minutes later, I wanted to fight him. That's a joke, of course. I didn't really want to fight him, but 5 minutes later, I understood why. Because he was a pompous individual who was Christian and afraid of Muslims in their own country. That's why they wanted to fight him, because he was looking for it. He was expecting it. When you look at our border and you expect it to be rapists and murderers and drug dealers and all that stuff, you're actually leaning into a lie that's being perpetuated to perpetuate fear, not because it's true, but because they want to control the government, whatever side of it you're on, whatever idea of it you're on. I'm going to put a warning on this video that says there's political stuff in this. I literally am a one-issue voter. And my vote will always go for the person who will give my son a loving world. Right now, I see one side doing nothing but spreading fear and having no policy for creating a loving world. And I see another side that is trying to help people get health care and pay off overwhelming student debts. And I see people who are trying to help the poor and not the rich. And they're trying to, even things out, right? And I go, okay, right now, that's the side I'm voting for because they're the only ones who are actually doing anything loving. They're the only ones who aren't perpetuating fear and anxiety. And as they sit there, they perpetuate their fears and their anxieties, they're actually creating a world of fear and anxiety. I want to live in a loving world. Loving worlds have no borders. Fearful worlds do. And so when I talk about borders and us not needing them and people saying I'm wrong, the only thing as I hear is I'm fearful, so I want a border. And if this makes some of you unsubscribe or disconnect from me, I'm sorry that you feel that way. That's your fear and anxiety popping up. I've been all over this world. There's loving people everywhere. And this idea of I'm wrong about the border is not my being wrong. It's you being fearful. And like I said, if you want to disconnect from me or unsubscribe from me, I respect your beliefs. You just don't respect mine if you disconnect, if you unsubscribe. So this is my thought on this whole God, guns, and borders things. If you're doing things out of the fear of something bad happening, you're just succumbing to fear. The Buddha said the secret to enlightenment is the eradication of fear. The Bible says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for thou art with me. The Sufis say that God is on one side of the veil and we're on the other side of the veil, and our life is a struggle against the veil, and the veil is our fear. If you're in fear, you are thickening the veil between you and God. If you are buying a gun, you are doing that out of fear, not out of the love of God. And if you marry them together at God and guns, that's your need to be right instead of your need to love one another. If you're a Christian especially, and God and Guns channel is all about Christianity, right? I leave you one commandment, love one another. It never said, I leave you one commandment, love one another, unless you're on the wrong side of my fear-based border that I've created. And that's my thought on this. I think we need to throw away all the borders. And I'm going to stand by that belief. And no matter how many times you tell me I'm wrong, I'm just going to see your fear. I'm not going to see my truth. Because I love people from Mexico. And I love people from New Zealand. And I love people from the United Arab Emirates. And I love people from Iceland. And I love people from Europe. And I love people from Japan and China, North Korea, South Korea. All of those conflicts that you hear about, Ukraine, Russia, all that, those are all border conflicts. Because there's a border that says this is mine and this is yours and you're not allowed to this, and I'm going to own what's inside your borders. Throw away the borders, all of them. Start loving your humanity. Start loving your fellow man, like Jeshua asked. And that's my thought on this. This whole thing of telling me I'm wrong about the borders, it kind of got me on my soapbox, as you can probably tell in this video. And the reason it got me on my soapbox is because someone telling you you're wrong is only them saying, I'm right. And in this case, if they are right, then they are choosing to live in an unloving world. And that's my thought on this. And if I lose some subscribers, I'm sorry for you. Because if you get mad because I believe something, ask yourself, what does it matter what I believe? What does it matter what I believe? To tell me I'm wrong about what I believe is to try to manipulate me into what you believe. I'm right about what I believe. You can believe whatever you want, and you can feel right about what you believe. But I choose to live in a loving world. I choose to love all people everywhere. And in this situation right now, I feel like I'm tipping over the money changers' carts in the temple. The world is my temple, and I'm tipping over the border makers' carts. And that's my thought on this. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.